Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily is part of the Modern Grower Podcast Network. Check out some of our other shows like Carrot Cash Flow, the Growing Microgreens Podcast, and Farm Small, Farm Smart. Learn more about the shows using the link below.
Can you sort of explain to me the difference between, you touched on open-pollinated and heirloom, but sort of like what are open-pollinated and hybrid? But if you can sort of explain to me like what is heirloom and how does it differentiate from specifically open-pollinated seeds?
Yeah, I find this more of a marker, similar to what you're saying. Heirloom varieties these are the ones that I think of as like the backbone of, in our case, organics. Heirlooms are open pollinated varieties. They're the ones that have kind of stood the test of time, have been around for years.
Do you know what there's an actual distinction, right? There's like a time, is it 60 years or something? I can't remember.
Actually, but that would make sense about that timeline. We also tend to refer to these varieties as like varieties in the commons because they have the genetic material that has been around for so long. But you could buy lacinato kale from 5 different sources and probably get a very different thing, similar but different out of each one of those. And that's because those productions are happening in different areas. Each of those sources have different quality control standards. They probably all have different germination rates. So there's like so many different factors that go into play, including where you are also planting them, so there's like those added elements as well. Yeah.
I mean, would you say from your experience that with commercial growers, whether they're like kind of small scale market gardeners like me or, large productions, is it usually a good mix? Like, do you see a trend that it's like the commercial growers tend to favor the hybrid varieties or maybe the more productive open pollinated ones as opposed to some of the other ones that, might look prettier or a little bit more unique?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is more about scale in the focus of the farm. And I have farms that are across the board. I have some farms that only support high heirlooms and OPs, and then I have some that just need the disease resistance, and they won't want to take the chance on something else. And I think that's a little bit of like what your experience is and where you come from and what your background is. It's also where you're located. I mean, the East Coast is historically, the Mid-Atlantic, like totally hit by like massive disease pressures and that, and like can't really grow everything, and so they need the disease resistance in order to be able to get some squash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're telling me.
Yeah, I mean, so you at some point, if you're a business, your goal at the end of the day is that you need to walk away with some profit. And if a hybrid is going to help you get there, then you got to try it out. If you have an OP or an heirloom that is working for you and it's giving you what you need, then why go anywhere else? Use that beautiful variety. I also think that there was a time, or people have maybe misconceptions about what hybrids are, and that sort of turns them off to hybrids.
Like, do people think that like hybrid means that they're GMO?
Well, I don't I don't think so, but they could. They could. I mean,
I've had people ask me that before. Like, they're like tell them like we grow, oh, it's a hybrid variety, and they like, oh, like you're growing some sort of weird like genetic freak of like I didn't cross like a cucumber with a pepper here. Like, we're just crossing pepper varieties to get something that's going to be really productive.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So to continue to try to answer your question, a lot of times with kind of those high market value crops like peppers and tomatoes, if I have growers who are growing those in high tunnels and like really focusing on market garden style, high intensive, production, then I will absolutely suggest the hybrid varieties that are going to be more reliable in those situations and going to have the yields and production that folks are looking for. But again, it is scale. Like there are farms that are just growing field tomatoes, and maybe you are picking so fast because you are doing 5 acres of field tomatoes that you do not need a hybrid.
Yeah, you don't need to get every single tomato to count, towards your bottom line. No, I mean, and yeah, that is an interesting way of thinking about it, because obviously the intent of this is to educate, encourage people to kind of get into the space. And so, this is like a side of agriculture that is, I mean, it's integral. If without seed, there's nothing to plant and nothing to grow, and therefore nothing to sell and to feed people with. But there's not, I just don't feel like there's a whole lot of information out there that it's like, here's where your seed comes from. I mean, you kind of have to hunt for it, and you have to, and it's like, here's the difference between all these different things and why we use this. I know there's some, Jesse Frost with No Till Growers has put out a lot of good stuff talking about the seed that he uses and specifically why. But even understanding the context of a particular crop makes a big difference. Like, for instance, I grow my cucumbers outside, trellised, because I'm trying to keep them up off the ground. I'm outside. It's very humid here in the summertime. And so I really need like a good hybrid variety that's going to be productive and extremely disease resistant, keep all the mildew off, and everything that wants to eat it. Where the other farm that I worked at, they're growing them in the tunnel, on the ground, on plastic. So there's way less of an issue with disease, and it's on drip tape. So theoretically, there's never a drop of water that touches those cucumbers. And it's sort of like run and gun. Like, we get in and you have a few weeks of like really hard harvests, and then they're out, and then there's another tunnel that's planted. And so with that, he doesn't even bother with investing in like a really highly productive, highly disease resistant hybrid, because it's just, it, like you said, it's like, if you're just really cranking out production, you can, a 10% drop in that production, you're not really going to feel it, as opposed to me on my limited amount of space. I've got this one bed and I have to make it count. I need every cucumber to do that. So yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't put too much thought to, not just is it going to be more productive or less, but understanding the context of one or the other. Yeah, because I feel like that making that choice, and I think it depends. If you're working with a chef, and the chef is like, I want this patty pan squash, and or maybe there's like a, I've actually had restaurants reach out to me like, we want Jimmy Nardello peppers, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, and it's like, okay, well, because I believe it's at least OP. I don't know if it's considered an heirloom or not. Yeah, I can't remember.
I think that's just an OP. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, it's like, I sort of know some of the challenges and hoops I'm gonna have to jump through with that, as opposed to growing something that will be hybridized, be much better for our growing region. And so, but if I have the market outlet for that I can justify the drop in production or the lack of disease resistance or whatever, then yeah, it might make sense. But for me, it's sort of like, whatever the increase in profit of a particular crop tends to lean toward an increase in relying on extremely high quality seed.
Hello, growers. Say goodbye to heavy sandbags and hello to Modern Growers Quick Hoops Low Tunnels. Protect your plants from pests, wind, rain, and frost without the hassle of sandbags or flimsy hoops. Our patented design eliminates the need for clamps and ropes, while the unique wire system keeps covers secure yet easily accessible. Tested in the strong winds of New Zealand for over 20 years, Quick Hoops are light, strong, portable, and versatile. Most importantly, they're designed for field use. These aren't some lightweight system that only looks great in a greenhouse. Our hoops are designed to last in harsh field conditions. Use them with any covering to grow year-round and safeguard your crops. Shade cloth, frost blanket, insect net, clear poly, no problem. Quick Hoops can handle them. Get Quick Hoops today at shop.moderngrower.co and protect your crops for years to come.